Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, the Executive Director of Rock Solid Families.
And I'm Merrill Hutchinson, President of Rock Solid Families. And we are excited to have you join us as we talk all things faith, family, and fitness. A special thanks to Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for their support of Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community one family at a time. Welcome to Rock Solid Radio. Hey, this is Merrill Hutchinson coming to you today, and I am flying solo today. We have a COVID victim. Linda is down with the COVID right now, and she just wasn't feeling up to it. And so you guys are going to have to bear with me today, and we're going to try to get through a show that really is part of what is going on in our house right now. And man, we are seeing it like crazy over here at Rock Solid Families within our ministry that we try to help people and coach people through. So we are going to talk today about grief and sadness. You know, I don't know whether it's the weather, it's the season. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it definitely seems that there is an uptick in the amount of just sadness and just grief that's out there right now. And, you know, part of our deal is we want to help people with that. And so how do we do that? You know, it's probably not very responsible to just look at the people you live with and say, suck it up, get over it. But at the same time, we have to challenge each other. We have to do the things. It takes work to get out of grief and sadness, and work is an action. And so there's certain things that we do have to do to recognize the growth that we're trying to get out of this sadness or this grief that we're in. So we're going to take some time. I'm going to take some time today and talk about that. If you find yourself in a bit of a funk, whether it is the weather, it's the season, or whether it's COVID related or some other illness, man, it's just, you know, we get down in the dumps. I think we could probably all agree that 2020 has brought on a little bit more grief and sadness than we might be used to. So let's roll through this and see what we can do to help those folks out who might be struggling with this. Before I go on any farther, I want to thank Mansfield Insurance Agency. They have built a reputation in business on listening and protecting their customers. Mansfield Insurance Agency began in 1981 by Jim Mansfield and is dedicated to serving individuals and businesses in Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. If you have an insurance need, call Mansfield Insurance Agency at 800-230-3927. All right, I also want to thank Maxwell Construction, which was founded in 1988 by John Maxwell. Since that time, Maxwell Construction has grown and expanded to become among the most recognized commercial construction companies in the tri-state area. What separates Maxwell Construction apart from their competition is their emphasis on being a service-oriented company and working to serve the needs of the individuals and their customers. So whether it's a school, hospital, restaurant, apartment, or retail center, call Maxwell Construction today at 812-537-2200. All right, a couple of different things that we've gone on as far as announcements for Rock Solid Families and Rock Solid Radio. As we said, we are under the COVID quarantine here at Rock Solid Families. So the whole family is pretty much shut down. It's not a pleasant place to be right now. So that's why maybe this is an appropriate time for me to talk a little bit about grief and sadness. Man, people are in a funk in my house. So anyway, we are going to shut down our office, at least from seeing face-to-face clients between the mid-December that we're in right now, all the way through January 1st or the first Monday of January. So hopefully by then everybody will be up and kicking and we'll have our energy and our mojo back. But so that's an announcement that we just need to get out there. You know, a couple things we got coming up in the big 2021 year is that we are going to be, we've been talking about this a little bit, but now it's actually going to happen. We are going to add to our format for Rock Solid Radio and for our Strong Dads podcast. We're going to add the video format to that as well. So we don't have any idea what that's going to look like. You guys might be shocked about oh gosh, is this what these people actually look like? But nonetheless, we're going to give it a shot and see how that rolls. And maybe that'll pique somebody's interest. Maybe follow the message better because you can actually see it. So looking forward to starting the video portion of this. All right. Last thing is we are wrapping up the 2020 year. This is a great time for people to start to assess how their year has gone financially. And, I know many people have taken a hit financially just because of all of the COVID stuff, but some folks have not taken a hit. They've done well. And if you're looking to say, I could help somebody out, I can make some donations, I can make some charitable contributions, we're going to ask you to consider Rock Solid Families is maybe somebody that you would be willing to support and contribute to. The ministry that we have here serves Southeast Indiana, Southwest Ohio, and Northern Kentucky. And, we don't let money be an issue as to why somebody will not get help or some kind of coaching, counseling for their marriage. We want that family to be strong. We want that marriage to be strong. And money is not going to be the issue. So we don't turn people down. But in saying that, we need help. We need the financial support to keep our doors open. And so if you would like to say, hey, I want to hide a few more dollars from being taxed from Uncle Sam and like to make a charitable contribution here, please look at considering contributions to Rock Solid Families. You can go to our website, rocksolidfamilies.org, and you can make donations there, or you can contact us and send donations that way as well. So anyway, couple of backgrounds. It's been hard finding the joy lately with all that's been going on in the world. And so there are some questions that we have had, and Linda and I talked about this. We've actually had people coming in going, what do I do? What do I do? And so we actually formed several questions here that have been walking in our office, some directly, some we've kind of just condensed and made into more of a simple question or a broad question so that we can help people with, maybe the answer will help apply to you. So the first question is, I'm having a hard time finding joy in anything I do. How can I get joy back in my life? So that's kind of the question. How do I get joy back in my life? Well, I don't know. When you think about that, like, how do you get joy in your life? I think one of the challenges with that is we often look at joy as an emotion, kind of like we look at love as being an emotion. And the truth of the matter is joy is not an emotion. Love is not an emotion. We talk about that all the time in our shows. The feeling of love that's a different type of love in the sense of the feeling part. But love itself is an action. It's a work. To love somebody, to love something, it takes work. And in order to take work, it takes a choice to do that. And so love is a lot like joy in the sense that you have to search for joy. You have to look for joy. You have to look for joy, or you have to look for happiness even in the darkest of moments. And this is really difficult because if you're not conditioned to doing that, and when I say conditioned, this is like a muscle. If all of a sudden I'm going to go out and try to run 5 miles and I haven't done that in 3 years, I'm going to struggle to find those 5 miles because my body's not used to it. I can't go through that. At the same time, joy is the same way in the sense that if I'm always seeing the negative, if I'm watching nothing but negative news, if I'm around negative people, if I'm hearing all this COVID garbage constantly, if my kids are complaining constantly, if my workplace is nothing but a dark complaining place, that's all I'm seeing. And now you're telling me I'm supposed to have joy in my life? Yeah, it's not working. And so what we're really talking about here is having an understanding that joy is of action, just as love is. And so joy means, man, even in those dark days, even in that time where nothing looks bright, I am going to have to look for the smallest of things and put my focus on those. Linda and I do this all the time when we work with our clients. When we look at why a marriage might be struggling, and, at one time these people got married and they loved each other. They just thought each other was the cat's meow. Nothing's wrong with this, my mate here. And all of a sudden, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, they can't see any reason to love this person. And really what happens is a change in focus. The people really haven't probably changed much. Personality does not actually change, unless you have some kind of medical condition or something like that. Personalities pretty much stay the same, but attitudes and what we focus on, they do change. And so when we grab that, and if I'm like, what attracted you to this person 15 years ago? The list is usually long. They were funny. They were good looking. They had lots of energy. They did this. They did that. They cared. And you act like that person disappeared. But that person probably did not disappear. That person just got a lot of junk piled up over their head. And now you're not seeing what you used to see. And so joy is that same way, in that I have to be active in finding the joy in the smallest of things. So the activity that Linda and I will do with couples all the time, and you've heard maybe us talk about this in the show, and I'm going to repeat it just because it's worth repeating. It's one of those things that you go, oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, this is just a simple exercise where I have a couple sitting down in my office, and if we're talking about finding joy for an individual, I can just do it with the individual instead, and I can say, okay, I want you to look all around my office. I want you to look everywhere in my office, and I want you to look for everything that's blue. Everything that's blue. And you start staring and you look around for everything in my office that's blue. And you're going to find quite a bit. I have some blue walls. I have a blue map. I have some blue figures and stuff hanging on the wall. I've got a lot of blue in my office. And then I say, close your eyes. Close your eyes. And in that moment, I say, okay, with your eyes closed, tell me everything in my office that is bright yellow. Oh, bright yellow? You didn't let me look at bright yellow. You told me to look at blue. Yeah, see, I directed your focus. I directed your focus and allowed you to look at the darker, the blue things. And you now, in your mind, cannot find a single blue or yellow thing, a single bright thing. And the shame of it is when you open your eyes, you'll all of a sudden notice all of the brightness, all of the yellow that's around you. See, guys, the yellow was always there. The joy is there if you want to look for it. And so I'm not trying to minimize when somebody's going through a difficult time. What I'm trying to get us to realize is, man, this all comes down to the work that we have to do to start to see the small, bright things and start to build off of those. And when we can do that, we can start to climb out of the darkness. So hopefully that helps a little bit with that question. How do I start to find the joy during this season? All right. Let's see. I have another question here. I have a friend who recently lost a loved one. How can I best help her? Oh, man. Well, okay. So this is one of those questions that, when you think about like when somebody dies, a friend of yours, a family friend or somebody, and you're like, what do I say to that person? I mean, I feel so awkward. I don't know what to say. I mean, anything I say is going to come out wrong, or it's just not going to be heartfelt the way it needs to be heartfelt. And so this is that type of question, like, what am I going to do to help somebody who's just lost a loved one? But at the same time, you feel helpless sitting there doing nothing. So let's back up a little bit and let's just talk about really what the person's looking for. They're in grief right now. And when you're in grief, you don't have a lot of capacity to do a lot of thinking in the moment. Okay, the emotion is heavy. The brain does not work through a lot of problem solving in that moment. And so to bombard them with answers and suggestions and all of these problem solving things is really just not very helpful. In fact, it can really come across as cold, indifferent, just not in touch with them. And so really the first thing is to think about just being a friend. All right. So when you see somebody going through that difficulty, what is a friend? And a friend is just someone that's available, someone who's available, someone who has a presence, not a forced presence, but someone that the presence is available upon need. A soft reach out. This is not like, well, I'm going to go over your house and I'm just hanging out with you for the next 3 weeks. No, because that might be pretty irritating in itself, depending on who you are. All right. So anyway, the first thing with just being a friend and helping somebody that has lost somebody close to them is just knowing they have a friend, knowing that you are available. Asking them, don't assume that you know what they need. Ask them what they may need at this time. okay? And give them the permission to ask the harder things. So often when somebody's grieving, they don't want to put anybody else out, and they will just be like, no, I'm fine. And so give them permission. No, you can ask me anything. Do you need me to help come over and clean the house? Do you need me to go get some groceries? You can ask me anything, and you're not putting me out. So that is extremely helpful. But again, I want to caution you and not just assuming that you know everything they need and you're just going to start taking charge. They don't need somebody, in most cases, they don't need somebody to come in and take charge of their life. So let them stay in control at the level that they're able. All right. Here's another thing. And Linda and I have to be careful with this too, because by our training, we are counselors and coaches, but not everybody is seeking a counselor and coach in a difficult time. In order to be counseled, you have to first have a desire to be counseled. You have to have a trust in that person, a trust that not only do you trust the person, but you trust the words that come out of their mouth. And so don't jump into the pseudo counselor role. Like, I'm going to sit down and we're going to just talk it all out and we'll work through this together. You have to be given permission to be in a counseling role. As a counselor, we do not seek people out to see. We always ask that people seek us out, because when they seek you out to be counseled, that means they have a desirable heart for that. So don't jump in and try to be the pseudo counselor, like somehow you took a psychology class in high school or something and you know how to talk to people. I mean, you have good intentions, I know, but that's not what they're seeking unless they actually say so. Okay. How about this? How about just reaching out to them quietly and subtly, in the sense that you're not bombarding them, but just a text, a phone call. Hey, I'm here if you need me. Okay. Just them knowing that you are kind of waiting in the wings is very reassuring. They know that they're not alone. And you'll see this oftentimes when somebody's going through the grieving process. Let's say we have somebody that passes away, and everybody is right there at their doorstep for the first week or so, several days, with funerals and just coming together. And then all of a sudden life goes back to somewhat normal for everybody else. But it's so much harder to jumpstart normalcy for the person who's grieving. And so the occasional reach out, it doesn't have to be intense or in your face. Just them knowing that you're still there, especially if they just want to hang out, if they just want to go get a drink, if they just want someone to talk with. Man, that's just huge right there. So a nice kind of calm reach out to them is huge. How about this? When you are working with somebody, or you have a loved one or a friend who has had a loved one pass away, if you are going to be helpful, you have to understand your own emotions and the level of emotions that you're bringing into the solution or the help. If you are coming in and the death of the person has really bombarded you with a ton of emotion, you have to be very, very mindful of that and understand how your emotions will impact the relationship with the person that you're trying to help. And so coming in with your emotions not in check does not make you a big help a lot of times. In fact, it just really muddies the water, because that person's already trying to deal with their own emotions. The last thing they need is to try to figure out how to counsel you and pull themselves through there. So understand you may not be the right person to pull them through a difficult time. And if you're not, just recognizing that, and maybe you have some other common friend or connection, and you can lean on that person to have them more involved in helping the healing process. All right, I hope that helped. Just walking through that. Let's see, I have another question here. Let's see, this one is, I have two teenagers. Oh, great. I have two teenagers who don't want to leave their room. I get it that their world looks different right now, but what do? Do I poke the bear and force them out of the room, or do I let them have their space? Ooh, okay. So I'm thinking now we've got some almost quarantine type action here. We got a few teenagers. They're probably not going to school because school's got issues with COVID and all of this. And so now we've got kids who are kind of barricading or hiding out in the dark, so to speak, in their own room. So what do we do as parents with these situations? Well, I can relate to this. We've got some teenagers that are going through this, and you know what? I mean, my heart goes out to them. No one likes this quarantining garbage. There's a cost to it, and I think we're starting to see that. I mean, we certainly are aware of the dangers and risk of COVID in terms of a health awareness, but we are also really seeing the impact on depression and anxiety, just withdrawal on people, the lack of social interaction, the lack of distraction. You know, part of the benefit of being out and about is it just helps you stay distracted from all of the things that can normally be pretty annoying. And when you don't have those small distractions, the little things become even more annoying, and your brain just gets focused on stuff that's just not good. So I can relate to this. I've seen it in my own house. I've even felt it myself. So what do we do? Well, I don't know. You just kick them in the teeth and tell them to get the heck out of the house? No. Okay. Well, some of you might think that I might try to do that. I probably at times would be close to that. You would certainly hear me say, it's time for you to do something. It's time for you to move. Okay. But anyway, let's talk about what we can really do to help them out, okay? First off, I'm not going to get into a big blame game and yelling and screaming at them as to why they're sitting around. I know why they're sitting around. There's a lack of direction. There's a lack of focus. They're just doing what feels comfortable. But it also starts to reveal a little bit about who that person is. And I think this is the part that you can actually have a parenting moment, a teaching moment with your teenager. So they're just sitting around, okay? There's nothing to do. We're bored. We don't feel good. School's not open, blah, blah, blah. All right. So if I have a kid who's sitting around, let me do the opposing part of that. What if I have a kid who's in the exact same situation, but he just is finding all kinds of things to do? He's down in the woods making trails. He's down doing this, doing that, busy. And then you have another one in the same family who's just sitting around, looking to turn on a TV, looking to stare at a wall. What that tells us actually is the challenge with that person with having visions and goals. This is a great thing for you as a parent to recognize. All of us can get stuck in these at certain times, but this is a time where you go, so they're not very creative and trying to figure out what to do with their energy and the resources that they have. And so this is a time where I want to point this out. I don't need to throw it in their face and make them feel bad about it, but I want them to understand that this can be a lifelong skill to learn if they learn it correctly. If they don't, this will be the thing that keeps them unemployed. It'll be the thing that keeps them in the welfare department. It'll be the thing that keeps them really in terrible relationships, because it is showing a lack of vision. And so I want to challenge them. And at this point, I'm going to say, okay, listen, I get it. I get it that you're bored. I get it that you're not motivated. We're going to have a little lesson here. And the lesson is you're going to start to think about things that you need to do, even if you don't feel like doing them. I don't care if it's cleaning the closet. I don't care if it's going for a walk. I don't care, but you're going to write some things down that you need to do. And I don't care if they're a teenager and you're the parent and they look at you like you've got three heads. This is part of your job as a parent to say, hey, we've got to do something because what you're doing here is not right. And I want them to see what is actually this is going to lead to. This type of habit is going to lead to down the road as they become an adult. If they don't get a grip on understanding when they fall into a funk, you've heard me say that on the show before, man, I can get into a funk. And that just means, man, I'm losing my vision. I'm not dreaming well. You've got to be the person that helps pull yourself out of the funk. So anyway, we want to challenge them. I also, though, if they are being stubborn about it and for some reason just like, I don't feel like doing anything, I'm just going to sit around, then do not save them from their natural consequences. Okay. If that means they don't make the team, if that means they lose money, if that means they lose a job, do not save them from their natural consequences, fully knowing that they have the health that they can get through this. Okay. Now, again, I'm talking here about a reasonably healthy teenager here. I'm not talking about somebody who's got a diagnosed mental illness and there's other issues going on. I'm talking about a healthy, reasonably healthy teen who's just in a funk and needs some prompting. Okay. And maybe this is not typical of them, but you see it now and then. Okay. And so they're going to carry their own consequences for this, and I'm not going to rescue them from that. Okay. All right. So anyway, hopefully that helps. Hopefully you understand that as a parent, you can recognize when people in your home are getting in a funk. You can recognize as a parent how you can help get them through it. This is part of coaching. This is part of when you see the potential in somebody that you can help pull that out. If somebody doesn't have the desire to pull it out, you can't own that. At the end of the day, they have to own where they're at. And so hopefully, these are some steps that can help pull your family through. Okay, so we are going to wrap up. This reminds me of the scripture that is in Ecclesiastes. It's Ecclesiastes 3:4. There's a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Man, isn't that the truth? If you ask a lot of people, what's your goal in life? Somewhere in there, they'll say, I just want to be happy. And I get that, because happy is an emotion. But joy is a sustained sort of existence, a way that you look at the world. And there's a time, though, within joy, it is possible that you can have joy and sorrow in the same life, because there is a time for that. When you have somebody that passes away in your life, nobody's expecting that you are not going to be emotionally in a downward funk through that. But reeling through that and learning through that and pulling the goodness from that, that is how we seek joy, right? So, I think this is the other thing. People will sometimes think that because they become Christian, that they should be totally happy all the time. And, and those of you out there that are Christian and have walked the walk, you understand, no, just because you're Christian doesn't take the difficult times away. But here's the bottom line. Your joy, your happiness comes in this word called hope. And hope, what is hope? And hope is this whole idea that you believe things can be better, that there can be a sunrise again. And the creator of hope is this thing we call God. And the God of all creation, the God who has everything under his control. And knowing that he loves you, that he created you, knowing that he cares and he doesn't want you to stay in the depth of darkness for long. He wants you to learn and to grow and to become an even more perfect relationship with him, knowing that you could have eternity with him. These are the things that start to create a feeling and a actual situation of joy and understanding of joy. So don't lose sight, especially if you call yourself a Christian. Don't lose sight of the promises of God. He promises just so much joy, especially when we're talking about eternal life with him. My son and I were talking today about what heaven might be like, and it's just like, just the idea that you would not have any darkness from sin. I don't even know about all the other stuff. I don't know about what the body will look like. I don't know whether we're going to have, Skyline chili or not. I don't know. But just the idea that we don't have any sin at all is enough for me to say, man, that gives me joy right there. And it makes me want to fight another day to continue to help people and to help others with striving to look for the good. Okay, so And our challenge for this week, I challenge you to look at your perspective. I challenge you to look at the bright things. I challenge you to recognize when you've gotten stuck on the dark things, whether that's in your marriage or whether that's in the existence of your life. Are you one of those folks that sees the darkness? If you do, if that's where you gravitate towards, I'm going to say, that's on you. But you also, that's the cool thing in the sense that you have the opportunity to change that. You don't have to wait for somebody to step in and fix you. You have the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to start thinking about things differently. You do that by creating new patterns, whether that means every day I'm going to start a reading, a saying. Every day I'm going to make myself experience and think about bright things. That's on us. And so I just challenge you to get busy and start doing that. All right. So we are going to wrap things up. I just want to pray that everybody does continue to look for joy. I want to say a prayer here for Linda that she is feeling better and she gets her mojo back. That's what we call that around our house. We need our mojo, and you're missing your mojo. Things are flat. So we just want to pray for her that she gets feeling better. And so we want to thank Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency for all their help in helping us to get the word out with Rock Solid Radio. So we want to thank you again for listening to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time. Make it a great day.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. For help or more information about what you've heard on today's show, contact us at rocksolidfamilies.org or call us at 812-576-ROCK. That's 812-576-ROCK. Again, a huge thanks to our sponsors, Maxwell Construction and Mansfield Insurance Agency. If you have questions you'd like answered on our show, or you want to chime in on something you heard, go to our Facebook page, Rock Solid Families. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to tune in next week for another episode of Rock Solid Radio. I'm Linda Hutchinson, and for my husband Merrill and I, thanks for tuning in to Rock Solid Radio, building a stronger community, one family at a time.